Hey folks, my name is Saraja Rahim. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the founder of Groundsheet, a social and organizational accountability organization with an emphasis on racial and social justice. Groundsheet was one of the many consultancies formed during the pandemic in 2020. In that first year, I'm really glad that I went out on a limb and decided to start doing this work and doing some of this learning, because through that I got to meet my co-conspirator, my collaborator for today. Brenda, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Brenda Herrera Moreno. I use she, ella pronouns, and I'm the founder, CEO of In.Visible Paradigms, and we facilitate transformative spaces for white allies and majority white organizations. In.Visible Paradigms started in 2018 as a response to the organizing done in Denver that was majority white women. That was the space I happened to be in that was majority organizing in response to the presidential election of Trump. And it was two years later, after starting In.Visible Paradigms, there were still opportunities where people weren't taking the time to be intentional. There was still a lot of reactivity from white allies. And so I wanted to create an intentional experiment to see what would it look like to hold a space of growth and accountability for white allies to experience personal transformation and deepen their commitment. And 5 years later, we're here helping majority white organizations navigate their journeys of diversity, equity, inclusion.
I don't think I've heard that story before, so it's really great to kind of hear your origin story for In.Visible Paradigms. I think that our stories share a common theme around learning, really in-depth continuations of learning, and then like sharing of the knowledge and experiences that we kind of accumulate along the way. I think that goes into what we're talking about today. It's no surprise that with an origin story like that we collaborated to create the Reciprocal MOU. This is our third and final conversation. It's probably not that final, but it is our third and final planned conversation around the MOU. And today we're really going to be talking about kind of what's in there. It won't be super technical because we hope that you'll try it out and that you'll come to us with questions, and then we can maybe be able to better give technical assistance. But we will talk about like what do you have in there, because in the first episode we talked about our values, in the second episode we talked about really how you use it or kind of why you might use it, and then in the third episode we're really talking about the how you'd use it. And so I guess I'll start us off with like, what isn't the MOU supposed to do, and then what is this Reciprocal MOU supposed to do? So I'll ask that of you, Brenda. Starting us off.
I don't know why I feel intimidated, even though I co-created it.
Maybe start with what isn't it supposed to do. I feel like it's easier to say like what are we not trying to do here with this?
Yes. What we're not trying to do is to rush through important conversations that lead to deeper collaborative relationships. We're not trying to rush through that. That's what we're trying to keep. What we're also not trying to do is to have this be an intimidated and legal binding document. This is an intentional guide to form conversations around a commitment. I keep saying what this is.
I'll do some negatives. This is what it's not for. I think the first one you said was totally true. It is not meant to be a legal document. The MOU is not legally binding. This Reciprocal MOU is not for that, and it's not meant to replace a legally binding contract or even kind of the more traditional MOU that really might outline some dates. So I agree with you on like, it's not meant to do that.
Mm-hmm.
This is not meant to really it's not meant to be a strategic plan. So it's not meant to outline the totality of your goals or how you're going to achieve those goals in terms of like having deliberate sort of planning steps along the way. It's not meant to do that. It's not meant to repair a really severely damaged relationship. I think that if you are in a conversation or a collaboration where you're like, this is going wonky, that's a great time to introduce this. But if you're like, this has gone badly and we are not getting along, I think a different tool would be a good thing to use for you. So those are some things that it's not supposed to do. I could go on with more of the negatives.
One thing I'll add to that not list is that this is not for idea creation. This is best for a convergence of organizations with a clear idea of what they want to accomplish, or an idea that one organization wants to accomplish and inviting someone else into that to add it, to take it a little bit further. Why I say it's not great for brainstorming, it's because I think there's parts of it that can help you find the right people maybe through these questions to start developing the idea further, but it's not an ideation document. I think there's great questions that you should ask yourself to get better to get closer to the idea that you want to do, but that would be one thing I would add for that.
Yeah, I think that that's super true. There's not really a space for that. There is a space for adding in your goals to kind of have a discussion around them, but it's definitely not for where you're like ideating your goals. Yeah, totally true. I think that's a good point, because I think that leads to another, like, what is not for. This is not for completing all at once, all up front, and like never looking back at it again, which I think happens with contracts and even plans sometimes. This is a living, breathing, kind of churning document that you'll have to revisit again and again. So this is not for kind of just documenting something and putting it to the side. This is for reflection, like a lot of reflection. This is for supporting a broader strategic plan or supporting the implementation of a contract or formal MOU. Now is when you can list all the positives. Like, what should people be doing with this?
Here's where I come to shine. This is for a relationship that you were excited to have differently, to be different from other relationships around business or around project collaboration, project design, project execution. This is a document for those intentional questions, hard conversations. There's sections here where we ask you, who has been excluded from this conversation? How are you going to cite contributors? And I think that lineage of memory is so important. And that's an anti-oppressive practice. There is sections on this document that go further into resolution of the relationship. How will we know when this is going to come to an end? So this is a document for intentional conversations that are generative, meaning that the discomfort, the insecurities, the what ifs, the worst case scenarios, the fearful conversations, those are all supported and guided through a series of questions and sections so that it is generative, meaning that it's not just going to be uncomfortable and you don't know what to do with it. It's that they're well thought out questions to go deeper and find new insights about yourself or find new insights about this relationship with an organization that you want to forge. This is also a great document to bring for yourself, to practice for yourself, whether you're an individual running an organization that is starting, looking to collaborate with other people, that you admire across the space, that you've seen the work. This is a great document for that. This is a great resource for practicing reciprocity, practicing transparency. This is a great document for excitement too, like being excited about your own superpower, your own values, like what you've created, and sharing that with other people. This is a great document for that.
That's a great list of things that this MOU is for. I definitely should have swapped us, because I definitely was like, don't use it for this. I was prepared for the don'ts. So I wanted to also ask, well, I feel like after talking about some of the like things that it's for, so I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead because I feel like you might have some favorites in mind already. What's your favorite section of this MOU? We have a lot of sections. I'm not sure how many exactly, but what's your favorite section and why?
My favorite section has to do more with a favorite question that I have, and it's where we have written, do you see us as equal partners? How does our individual or institutional power show up in our relationship? So exciting to ask someone that I'm collaborating with their experience and perspective, impression of my work, my business. So that's absolutely a favorite one. It's not something that people ask enough about. I think it, for me, addresses a little bit of the cultural and society values around bigger, better, faster, stronger of a business. And when you're tiny business, when you're a micro business, when you're just a single shingle, that question has been really affirming to me, to realize there is a lot of power that I have, even in the scale that I am. And how are others experiencing that? And more specifically, talking about individual, which is identity power, and institutional power, is just a fantastic question to have from the beginning, because it really can illuminate a variety of things that can be reproduced further down in the collaboration, or now that we've named it, we can name it again when we see that happening at different points of the relationship. What about you? What's your favorite section or question in the MOU?
I think my favorite section is the listing objectives and key tasks section, partially because this was a sticky section for us, where we were like, all right, let's have them build out all their objectives and key tasks, and then we're like, wait, that they could do that in almost anything else, in any strategic plan or in any regular MOU. And so I think here what we decided instead was to really help them think about their partnership differently and some of the potential that their partnership could have. And so we asked them to think about the future of work differently, and we really asked them to think about, like, if you feel these things are your values, like anti-oppression or anti-racism are your values, how does that get embedded into this partnership? Like, one of the questions that is in here is, how could this partnership be used to repair institutional harm? So the idea of like reparation and repair, I think, is really important, but it's not one that people, I think, get to think through really often. But I think by asking that question and deliberately making people think through it, then they could say like, oh, okay, maybe it's something that we'll think about really intentionally in our hiring practices. Maybe we can set a goal within this or a measurement within this that really requires us to ask, what's the impact of this on people of color? Maybe we could really think about like how the goal or work we're doing is responsive to some system of oppression or some hurdle or inequity that we know exists within our kind of community, but that we can have an impact on. And so I really appreciated the intentionality. I'm just complimenting us. Good job, selves. But it's because it's a harder question that people generally don't think of as a part of their work. And even if people don't come up with like really clear objectives, I think starting to think like, okay, I assume that I have the power to influence the world around me. How am I going to do that intentionally to make the world a little better? And so that's my favorite section.
Love it. As Suraj and I created this document. Don't be intimidated by the length. Don't be intimidated so much by the questions. This is a guide. So I suggest finding an organization that you have already built trust, have some history with, especially if this is your first time, but you're joining together in the future or in an upcoming project to bring this over to that relationship, to that collaboration, to that partnership. And be aware that it does take time to go through this. I suggest reading it first, either one of the parties reading it on their own first, and then dedicating about 2 meetings to go through this together, because these are important conversations to have. You may already know the answer to this organization that you've worked with, but you may not know what their answers in context with these other important questions around power, resolution, conflict, harm, contributors, history, resources, values. Like when you're having a set of questions dedicated around a collaborative and reciprocal partnership, the answers might be different because you're setting a specific moment in your relationship to say, this is important for X reason. So this is practice. This is fulfilling a lot of values that are dear to In.Visible Paradigms and Ground Sheet. So we're really excited to hear how you're going to go through these sections, through some of our favorite questions, and to reach out if you have any questions around that. You're not alone. We've gone through this a little bit with other relationships, and we're always here to connect. Sarah, do you have any wisdom or suggestions or encouragement for people completing this resource?
Yeah, I think my wisdom or encouragement would be like that you don't have to do it alone. I think when we are filling out contracts or filling out paperwork or doing tasks like this, oftentimes we think like, all right, I just gotta hustle through this paperwork and get it out the door. And so we don't consult a lot of people, but this really is a place where it's worthwhile to consult other people, to ask other people for ideas, to work on it in collaboration with other people on your team before bringing it to this broader partner. So I think expanding the amount of people who are working on something can be really helpful. Understanding that that also doesn't mean that you have to have them completing lots and lots of discrete tasks. Even the asking of like, what do you value, asking them some of the questions to get more ideas can really make a document like this really reflective of your organization, and like you're not alone in the execution of that document or in the completion of the goals within it. And so my wisdom would be get more people involved, ask more people their thoughts, and see where you align with other people who are going to be working on it. Get more collaborators within your community first.
Thank you all so much for listening, replaying, following the guide along as you have it in front of you or as you are embarking in the middle of conversations with collaborators. We are here. We've continued to say that, and that's true. You can follow In.Visible Paradigms on our website, www.invisibleparadigms.com, or on LinkedIn, which is where I'm most active, as well as Instagram and Facebook at In.Visible Paradigms. Saraja, where can people follow you?
You can follow me across a couple of things. The best way to reach me is via email if you have questions or if you kind of need help navigating the document, and you can do that at groundsheet_co@groundsheet.org, which is org. You can also follow me on Instagram. I have one post, but if I have more followers, maybe I'll feel inspired to put content on there. You can also follow me on LinkedIn for absurdly long LinkedIn posts, and you can also follow Ground Sheet on Facebook. So yeah, if you just look up Ground Sheet, after you get through the things that are about tents, then you'll find us on most social media platforms. And just like Brenda said, reach out if you have questions about this document. Reach out if you have suggestions about how you feel like how it's gone after you give it a test run. Let us know how it's working out for you. We'd love to know what your experience has been with it. Thanks for listening. Thus, our third episode is concluded. We hope that it inspires you to utilize this tool in your next collaboration. We really, really do feel like it could be a foundation for a different kind of work for you and for your collaborators. And so we really do hope that you try it out, and wishing you all the best in this and just generally.
That's so sweet. Yes. Thank you all, everyone. Bye.
Bye.